What is going on, Woodward Bets? Back in the house on a Tuesday night. Beer and Scott back at the helm, coming off at least an exciting Monday Night Football game at the end. It looked like the Rams were going to run away with that thing. Cardinals made it interesting, but a big win by Stafford and company. We'll talk all about that game. We'll cover some NBA for tonight. NHL, Scott, there's a ton of games on the slate. Unfortunately, you and I don't know much about the NHL, so not sure we're going to get much hockey talk here today, but we will talk some football as well and see what else we can pull out of our hat here. My man, how we doing today?
Can't complain. It was a pretty exciting game. Everybody says, Stafford can't win the big game. Stafford can't win the big game. And I'm sitting there watching it, and then they recovered that onside kick. And I thought, how does a ball get in between them two dudes like that? I'm thinking, this is destiny. Here it comes. Here comes the Hopkins touch we need, because a few of us had some touchdown bets there. And I'm thinking, here comes this parlay going to hit for us. And unfortunately, it didn't come through. But, yeah, exciting game. It's fun watching these games here at the end when they actually mean something.
Yep, so we'll get into that. Of course, we're going to talk, again, NBA. Not a ton going on here tonight. COVID's starting to wreak havoc as well. So I actually had a cancellation game. The Bulls, not enough players, Scott. I mean, I'd love to suit up for the Bulls and play the Pistons, but I didn't receive the call today. So that game knocked off the list. So 3 games in the NBA. We'll cover that. It's waivers in your fantasy football league. So we'll get there as well. We know a lot of leagues going into playoffs starting this week, potentially next week. So we want to get you set up for success there. We'll cover injuries, of course. But, Scott, I want to talk about the stuff in studio. So far so good. We're off to a good start here with this thing. And basically what it is, we want to make a difference in some kids' lives. The children out at Mott's Children's Hospital, we want to donate some toys to them. Not just some toys, Scott, a ton of toys. So if you want to get involved here, all you got to do, bring a toy to the studio, or you can do it online, woodwardsports.com. There's an easy little button there to find out how you can donate. But basically, we want to stuff the studio with toys and outdo what we did last year, $70,000 worth of toys last year. So, Scott, so far, so good. I'd love to be a part of this. Let's keep going. We got all week here. Want to continue to pump this up this week.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. It's incredible. I actually went out last night and got a few things. I'm going to be heading in the studio tomorrow. I'm going to drop off a few toys to drop off up there. But Chris, I mean, we gotta get the Bet Show and all the listeners here, the Bet Show, to go on in there and donate, and make sure you mention the Bet Show. Maybe drop off, hey, maybe we won you a couple bets, maybe we did some things. Because Chris, I noticed something about that flyer. I think we're like Rudolph around the.
Let's bring it up again, Spencer. Let's look at the flyer. I do see
like
your omission.
Anybody see the bets on there?
Yeah, I see Santa. I see some of the great sponsors here: Myre, Guardian Alarm. I see some of the other shows on the network, which we love. Morning Woodward gets the day started. Big D Energy keeps it going, and of course, the bottom line, we love those guys. But yeah, something missing there, Scott. I'm with you here. We're not feeling the love here on the banner. That being said, let's make our presence known. You bring a toy by, again, tell them the bets team sent you. And like Scott said, you want some bets, whatever it may be. We do this show for free. We love to do this show, but we certainly want to give back and be a part of the community. We'd love to be a part of that flyer. Maybe next year, maybe we get we do enough this year that we appear on it.
Yeah, we're like Rudolph. We want to be in the reindeer games, but next year, Chris, we're going to end up leading that sleigh, so that's okay. It's okay for now. I mean, we got the red nose. People still don't understand what to do with it yet, but next year we'll be heading up the sleigh, that's for sure. So, but yeah, just to have a little fun at the fellas over there. But we'll have some fun with them when I go in there. I'll poke some fun about that as well. But yeah, if you drop off a toy, just mention the bets team. We definitely appreciate that, and it's all for a good cause, though, for sure.
We know we're the new kids on the block here. We understand that, but we'd like to think we're going to make an impact. And we're joking, of course. Not being on the banner, the big thing are those kids getting those toys. So, however you have to donate, please get involved with this. I know we're going to be very much involved with it as well. So this is going on all week long. So find some time. Let's fill that studio. Let's stuff that studio here with toys for these amazing children. So Scott, let's get into some of the stuff here for tonight. Before we do that, of course, make sure you guys are following us on Twitter at Woodward Bets. If you're watching on YouTube, on Twitch, wherever it may be, make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button on YouTube. Tomorrow we'll get into some KMAs. So anything that made you mad, any bets that were close, that went one way or the other, we certainly see those. Whatever has you tilted out there, let us be your sounding board. So send that to us at Woodward Bets. Scott always has a few things that he's upset about, so we'll sound off on some of that tomorrow. But Scott, let's recap last night. We talked about it a little bit. Obviously a big win for the Rams, making that NFC interesting now. You know, you have the Cardinals, Bucks, Packers all with 10 wins. The Rams stay very much alive here. Pretty much the entire conference, outside of the Lions, of course, are still in the playoff race. So just quick thoughts on last night's game, some of the stuff we saw with the Rams and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching that game. It was pretty exciting at first when I had OBJ in a lot of my showdown contests. I actually had him on captain as DK, and thought that, oh man, this is a great spot for OBJ. I thought he was going to just tear it up. It just seemed like, it was a great spot for him. I loved it. I fell in love with it. I thought, normally I don't like to play OBJ. He's burned me so many times, obviously, when he was on the Browns, but I thought Stafford's going to have to try to find another weapon. He's got to try to get away from Kupp, but man, he just keeps throwing it to Kupp. He kept throwing it to Kupp, play in and play out. I mean, man, the connection those two have is unbelievable. But, I mean, we do got a note here. The Cardinals, who just lost now to the Rams, are going to have to face the Lions. So I think that was a pretty big game for them. They're going to come in. I don't like the position the Lions are in here with the Cardinals. It looks like Murray was running around pretty well. I was surprised, Chris, that they just didn't keep going to Hopkins. They showed they had this rookie cornerback, this new cornerback coming in. There was the number 35, Williams, I believe it was. And Hopkins burned him several times, and it was like they forgot he was there. I mean, he wasn't really getting any kind of double team. I was watching, and I was quite surprised that they didn't keep going back to him. But again, man, how about Connors? I mean, that guy is tearing it up. I mean, that was, 7 game in a row now with the touchdown. He obviously scored 2, but he's been playing really well. So he's obviously a guy, I'm sure if you have him, you're doing pretty well in your season-long leagues. But, yeah, I was glad for Stafford to get that so-called big win.
Big win for sure. And Arizona, it hurts them, taking a look at the standings. They were sitting atop the NFC standings. A win would have kept them there. Now they plummet down to third. And we know with the new playoff format here, there's only one bye. There used to be 2 when there was 6 teams. Now there's only 1. So I'm rocking my Green Bay shirt here, Scott, for a reason. My Packers now sitting as the number 1 seed, which, A, you get that bye, B, everything coming through Lambeau Field. Would obviously be huge. Didn't work out very well last year, but a big moment for me. So I was secretly rooting on the Rams here as well. So you got all 3 of those teams sitting at 10-3. Dallas and the Rams up next at 9-4. San Francisco plugged into that 6th spot at 7-6. And then you have a whole host of teams at 6-7. Washington, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Atlanta, New Orleans, all vying for that 7th spot. Even Carolina, Seattle, and I guess the Giants and Bears even technically still alive in that NFC. So as far as the AFC goes, run that down here real quick. New England sitting up top. Tennessee and the Chiefs right on their heels. All 3 of those teams sitting at 9-4. Baltimore and the Chargers both 8-5. Indy and Buffalo right now plugged into the 6-7. But again, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Denver all with 7 wins. And then you have Pittsburgh, Vegas, Miami sitting there with 6 wins. So still 13 teams still in the hunt there in the AFC. So, Scott, not only is it our fantasy playoffs getting interesting, these games are going to start getting more and more interesting. Tons of playoff implications. I know we have Saturday games starting this week, so I'm excited about that as well. But exciting times here in the NFL. And again, we'll get to some waiver wire pickups and stuff here momentarily. But again, exciting times in the NFL right now.
Absolutely. It's always fun here when it gets down to the end. But, Chris, have you ever seen a season where there really isn't a team that stands out? I mean, we really don't have that team that everybody's going to say, oh, man, this team's going to be in the Super Bowl. I mean, even both conferences, I think it's wide open. So with that being in mind, I've been looking at some of these mid teams here, that are 5th and 6th in the rankings as far as, the betting odds go. What teams are getting 9-1, 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. I mean, if you get up two of those that 9 or 10-1, maybe one each in a conference possibly to limit the chances you have of getting one of these teams to the Super Bowl. But yeah, I think there's all kinds of different paths here for different teams to get to the Super Bowl. But you know what, Chris? I got a sneaky feeling if it's not the Rams, who I did bet on at the beginning, thinking, the Detroit fans are going to get kicked in the nuts and Stafford's going to win the Super Bowl. And I still think that is a storyline that could happen. But you tell me right now how bad the NFL is begging for the New England Patriots in Tom Brady to meet in the Super Bowl. Damn well they are begging for that. That would probably be one of the most watched Super Bowls of all time, and that would be the Tom Brady love fest. I just have a feeling that is what the NFL wants. So I wouldn't put that past it either. But yeah, it's exciting times here coming up here and toward the tail end of this season here.
Well, if you're a conspiracy theorist like Scott, let me give you some numbers here. We'll make this interesting. We'll put some dollars behind it. FanDuel always has some great stuff in their sports book here. So Super Bowl, getting the correct matchup. You can literally bet on this, which I think is very intriguing. If you think along the lines of Scott, New England versus Tampa Bay, plus 1,300 here. So nice 13-1 odds if you think that Super Bowl is going to come to fruition. You can also bet how you think that game is going to play out. So a forecast. So Tampa Bay to beat New England, plus 2,400. So 24-1 on that, or even longer odds if you think New England beats Tampa Bay, 27-1 on that one. So those are some interesting bets if you think it is going to go along what Scott's thinking here. As far as favorites right now, Tampa Bay, the favorite at plus 500. Kansas City up next, plus 550. We know they've been playing some great ball. My Packers, plus 650. And then New England, plus 750. Arizona, plus 1,000 to kind of round things out. So, Scott, you're not wrong. You grab some of these mid-range teams. Dallas playing some good football. They're 13-1. I think the Chargers can still play with anybody, 22-1. Maybe we're writing off the Bills too soon. They're 14-1. San Francisco, 34-1. So, yeah, the Viking. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can go.
Titans are getting Henry back here soon.
Yeah, so that's another one. They're 19-1. So yeah, I like you said, there's been favorites and then it changes. It's kind of like the MVP race. It was Stafford, then it was Kyler, then it was Brady. Now it's Rodgers. Maybe it is Brady. So similar here. I don't think there's one runaway team. The playoffs should be a ton of fun. I think anybody could beat anybody on any given day. I know it's cliche to say that, but this year it's certainly living up to that.
Yeah, absolutely. This year in the NFL, we could see a 6 seed, a team barely squeak in here that's barely 500 when, get to the Super Bowl. I think, these teams are so close. It's just going to be a matter of, some big plays, maybe some turnovers, and anything can happen, especially when it starts getting cold in some of these stadiums that we're going to see some of these teams playing. But yeah, that's just the volatility of the NFL. It's the same thing that we've seen in DFS, Chris. It's just been so tough this year to pinpoint a lot of these, obvious plays we so-called, or the chalky type plays that just been busting week in and week out. It's just been one of those odd seasons. Lots of injuries this year. The COVID obviously almost like doubles up the injuries from a normal type year, but yeah, it's been a crazy year. It's still getting to be the fun time of the year here, but yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the football playoff pools they have and all kinds of stuff as we get into this. But yeah, always a good time of the year when we're getting down to the end of the football season. The only thing that sucks though, Chris, is cold outside. It's getting to be winter. It's cold. That's the worst part.
It's not too bad right now. The weather we've had, barely any snow so far. So to be in Michigan and have minimal snow, I think it's going to be 60 degrees tomorrow. So, I'm already thinking, can I get the cornhole boards out before it gets dark and get some games in? But you're right. It's going to get interesting here. As far as last week, an interesting note, pretty much every favorite covered on Sunday. It was crazy. I think only 2 favorites did not cover. So the books took a beating. I saw some reports, some of the worst weeks for the sports book on record as far as the NFL goes. Rarely do you see a bunch of favorites won. I saw a bunch of crazy parlays that hit this week. We know people love to put in, those bet every damn favorite and see what happens. So if you're one of those people, this was certainly your week. But Scott, speaking of playoffs here, before we get into waivers, want to congratulate everybody that did make their fantasy playoffs. So always an exciting time here. The nitty gritty starting to get to it here. We're going to get some pickups here, but you brought up an interesting topic in some of our notes before the show. As far as, is there any last place penalties in some of these leagues that you know of? In some of our leagues, we have what's known as the oh, wow, it's magic. Look at this guy. I said we weren't going to talk any hockey, and maybe I have to change our tone here. Of course, we're going to talk some hockey. Let's bring him in here. Our boy Detroit Beastie. How we doing, buddy?
Great. It's like a genie. I wasn't even prepared for it. I figured there'd be some sort of nice lead. And I know, Beer, you're fantastic at hosting a show and steering the ship. And boom, good thing I wasn't doing anything silly behind the scenes, drinking, chugging, beer bonging. So thankfully, they popped me in at the right exact time. Thank you. Happy to be here and to talk hockey. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to get to hockey in a second. We were just about to talk, and we're congratulating everybody out there that made their fantasy football playoffs. And a lot of leagues have last place penalties. So, people that did not make their playoffs. And, one of ours, and we don't do anything crazy, Scott. I think you may have some crazy stories here. Our biggest one, we literally took a toilet seat, put it on a nice frame, and whoever loses, their face goes plastered right on the middle of that toilet seat, and you have to hang that in your house for the entirety of the year, as long as you are the toilet bowl loser. So that's about as crazy as we get. I know there's some crazier ones out there, Scott. Any good loser penalties out there? I know you had a couple good ones.
Yeah, I'm in a league where if you end up losing, you come in last. You play in the shit bowl, the last two place teams. If you lose, you have to bring 2 cases of beer to the next year's draft, wear a dress, and then you are the server, basically the one who's got to run around for everybody handing beer whenever you want one. So, of course, everybody pokes fun at you for that. But I've seen some, too, where you have to, buy food the next year for the draft, all sorts of others. But, man, I've seen some crazy ones online where people are getting tattoos and stuff like that. And, we saw some little bit of chat today going around in the Woodward Sports Slack, and they were talking about who was in their playoffs. And, of course, I chimed in there, Chris. They can get ready for the big time when we get in one of them leagues for Woodward Sports. But in the meanwhile, whoever comes in last, man, they should be outside that studio wearing a dress saying they suck with some sort of sign right there near Woodward Sports. I mean, there's got to be some sort of penalty. But what about you, BC? Is there any silly penalties you've heard in any of your leagues? I think those are pretty fun.
Yeah, those ones are fun. I play in a league with my guy friends. We've known each other since we were children. You're talking like 91 in first grade, second grade, things along those lines. So ours it's really mean, but it's it's in good spirit, right? We draft up a statement, like a paragraph. The winners or everybody who's not last place, we draft up a statement, and then we record it like it's the State of the Union. You know how the president, speaks, and I wants to address everybody. So we record it. It's only like a 2 or 3 minute thing, and that's it. And then we share it and we send it to folks. So again, it's PG in a way. We're not going to make them say, the F word or anything wild, since we send it to our friends, our parents, because we've all been a family since, 1991 for 30 years. So that's fun. There's been seasons, right? A dress and you wear like a big sign and you stand on the corner. But Scott, I love your idea. The Woodward Sports Studio, that's like prime time. I mean, that's right there on the corner in Birmingham. It doesn't get hotter than that. You got Lamborghinis driving by, Porsches, and they'll all honk when you're holding the sign wearing a dress saying, I work for Woodward Sports and I broadcast sports, but I suck so bad I have to wear a dress and stand on this awesome hot corner here and just tell folks how bad I stink at fantasy football.
Yeah, we certainly need to bring this to fruition here. First of all, how do we not get an invite to this league? So, Scott, we'll add that to the poster here. Another snub for the bets team, but the three of us are coming in hot next year. But I love that idea. It's somebody that has to literally say, I work in sports, yet I can't find a way to not finish last in my fantasy football league. Certainly want to see that happen. So we'll continue to bring some of those stories to light. We have a lot of weeks of fantasy football playoffs coming up. So if you're out there, you have a funny story, you have a last place story, please share it with us on Twitter at Woodward Bets. But BC, let's get to it today. NBA is taking a back seat today. We'll get to some more football here to end the show. But NHL kind of highlighting everything tonight. I believe there's 14 games in the association. So let's find some information, whether it's DFS, bets you like, just NHL knowledge. I know there's people out there looking for it. So what do we got here tonight on the ice?
I would imagine, just briefly, Beer, I know when NBA has such a big schedule like this, just like NHL tonight, 13 or 14 games, like the casual bettor or DFS player, you get kind of overwhelmed. But I've always been a guy, and I'm sure both of you can attest to this. You cut the player pool down, you look at 2 or 3 teams, and that's where you build there, and then you branch out from there. So given the fact there's so many games here, there's only 2 or 3 stacks I want to mention here, and I'll be brief. And one of them is without a doubt the Winnipeg Jets tonight. They host the Buffalo Sabres, and we know we can always pick on them. That goes through all sports. You always pick on the bad teams here. And the Buffalo Sabres, they're heading into Winnipeg. They've lost 7 games in a row. They're 8-15. And look, the Buffalo Sabres starting goalie, Aaron Dell, he's 0-5 on the season. He's allowed 20 goals. Dell carries almost a 4.5 GAA, goals against average of about 4.5, as I said. So Winnipeg is hot and flying here. And when you look at the bets, Sabres 8-20, their last 28 meetings in Winnipeg. The favorite, get this one, obviously Winnipeg is the favorite. The favorite is 21-7, their last 28 meetings. So if you look at their last 28 games, Winnipeg has absolutely dominated here. So for that fact, I love Winnipeg 1. I love Winnipeg 2. Let's start with Winnipeg 1 briefly. I won't take up a ton of time here with hockey, but Mark Lechifle, line 1, power play 1 on FanDuel, $7,500. Kyle Connor and Andrew Kopp, all 3 on the first line, all 3 on the first power play unit. So granted, they're a little bit more than normal when you look across the slate, but you're getting a ton of ice time and you're getting action on the first line, on the first power play unit. And for good measure, we can also stack Winnipeg's second line here. Pierre-Luc Dubois, second line, first power play unit with the guys I just mentioned here, Nikolai Ehlers and Paul Stastny. You remember Stastny from St. Louis fame, and then he went to Vegas and played in the Cup final here. So to me, Winnipeg has it all going on. They're projected to win 72.6% here this evening. So again, Winnipeg, you can't go wrong. In a bet here, we're stacking them in DFS, so why don't we put a couple bucks on them in terms of some betting here? Winnipeg is minus a goal and a half here. That goes without saying. I have Winnipeg literally putting up 5, maybe 6 goals on Buffalo and Aaron Dell this evening. And one more game, aside from the late game hammer, I'll get to that just quickly, San Jose, but I also want to highlight the Florida Panthers. Ottawa goes to Florida, so you're picking on 2 bad teams here, Buffalo and Ottawa here. Florida's heading into this game. I believe they're scoring 3.8 goals a game here, and they're only giving up about 2.5 goals a game here. And the Buffalo Sabres, the Ottawa Senators, they're giving up around 4.2 goals a game. So if you look at it, Florida has no other way but to score 4, maybe 5 goals in this one. So I'd like to highlight briefly here. Let me bring it up. I have it all in front of me. I'd like to highlight Florida 1, and why not? Sam Bennett, first line, first power play unit. And the wingers, Jonathan Huberdeau and Sam Reinhart here. So Reinhart left Buffalo. He's playing for Florida now, and they're going to absolutely trounce the Ottawa Senators here. And Florida, again, is minus 1.5 goals here. I have no issue taking that bet. In Florida, they're projected to win 73% in this game here. So look for, as I said, Florida to hang 4 or 5 goals, and look for Winnipeg to hang 4 or 5 goals here, and I don't think it's close. So that's the way I think of it, right? You put a player pool together, you get 2 teams that are just supplanted, and they're going to do some tough work, and then you branch out from there. And you want a late game hammer? Look at the San Jose Sharks. They play, I believe, at 10:30 at night, and that's so you kind of need that, especially in hockey. Those 10:30 games, 11 p.m. puck drops here. I love the San Jose Sharks first line: Thomas Hertl, Timo Meier, Alexander Bobrovsky there. All 3 play on the first line. You're going to get a little bit of exposure to the first power play unit and the second power play unit. San Jose's hosting the Seattle Kraken here. So I love, as I said, Winnipeg 1 and 2, their lines. I love Florida's first line, and I love San Jose Sharks first line. And that's what I have for hockey this evening. Kind of helps, put your mind at ease, right? I don't know about you guys, but NBA, there's 20 games, or it's overwhelming. So just take it easy, 2-3 lines, and then you branch out from there. Thank you, Beer, for writing it down. You're really making me, feel good about what I just said.
Hey man, this is some knowledge being passed along here. So I don't know a sport. I like to pay attention and take some notes. So I love it. So hopefully you guys are out there doing the same. We appreciate the hockey knowledge. Want to get some picks and some info. I know we got some hockey fans out there constantly asking me and Scott, hey, talk some hockey. Well, I'm not going to get in a lane I'm not comfortable with. So that's why we got you on board here for many reasons. But appreciate that, and we'll see if you got any best bets later on in the show here in the association, or in the NHL, I should say. Scott, let's get into some NBA here real quick. Again, just 3 games. We lost the Chicago Detroit game, COVID wreaking havoc on the Chicago Bulls, also wreaking havoc here on the Brooklyn Nets, Scott. So they may be pretty thin here tonight. No DeAndre Bremby, no James Johnson for Brooklyn. Also going to be without LaMarcus Aldridge. We know Kyrie Irving remains out. And the big domino, obviously, Kevin Durant. We'll see if he's able to give it a go. So they're going to be thin. Phoenix, likely without Devin Booker once again tonight. DeAndre Ayton has missed a few games here, so we'll see if he's able to return. Portland going to be without one of their big guns in CJ McCollum. The Knicks, no RJ Barrett. He's going to be out a while. Alec Burks back in that lineup, but no Quentin Grimes, no Obi Toppin either for the Knicks here tonight. And that covers most of the injuries here, Scott. No Precious Achiuwa for Toronto. OG Anunoby remains out as well. So clearly we have to start with the Knicks, Scott. Emmanuel Quickley, Alec Burks, guys that are going to be pretty viable pieces. Phoenix, once again, without Booker and potentially Ayton. So Chris Paul, a guy you can look to. So what are you doing here, Scott, in your NBA contest here? Just a 3-gamer. I'm not going crazy with it. All the notes I just took, I may play some hockey tonight. But NBA, what are your thoughts here on this DFS slate?
Yeah, NBA, I mean, with these 3 games, you mentioned Ayton. If he's not in there, Jamal McGee is somebody I think you might have to look at if he's not in there. I mean, Gary Trent, he's been balling pretty well here for Toronto. So I think you can get some value with Trent, maybe some Boucher if you want to look there. But definitely Chris Paul. Anytime you got Curry, I think he's a few threes away from being the all-time 3-point leader here. So I'm going to guess he's going to be firing up some threes. I think he's pretty close to getting 3,000 as well, which has never been done in the NBA so far. So Curry's another guy that you might be able to use as a spend up. I don't mind Quickley either as well for the Knicks in that game. Burks, as you mentioned, he's another guy. And then Jordan Poole, Chris, he's 6,300, Michigan guy there. I think he's been playing pretty well recently. He's got blow-up potential. But, yeah, Ayton is the guy here that we're going to have to keep our eye on. If not, maybe you could look at like a Nurkic at center or somebody like that. But definitely the payoffs for me. Either going to pay up for Harden or Curry tonight. Either one of those guys, I think, is where you're going to have to go. But Chris Paul's interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, if Durant's out, Harden becomes a pretty easy play. We know that he's going to have a ton of usage. They're already thin players, so you can continue to look down that Brooklyn bench as well. A guy like Cameron Thomas going to get some more run with some of the injuries they're dealing with. I agree with some of the cheaper plays you brought up, Boucher, Jordan Poole there with Golden State. And who doesn't love Steph Curry? I mean, the guy's just incredible. So I think easily the best shooter in NBA history, and the numbers bear that out. I don't think there's any debate there. So it's hard. How far out of reach is he going to put this record? I think is the thing to watch here. This may be one of those records that we just never see even threatened in our lifetimes. You know, very similar to, say, a Joe DiMaggio 56-game hitting streak. I don't know that we're ever going to see anybody do anything like that. So Curry certainly set up for success there. So we'll talk some NBA bets at the end of the show. Again, only 3 games on the docket. But Scott, we talked about a college football pool. So why don't you let the people know where we're at with that? How can they get involved with it? Always a fun time trying to sit down and pick all these college football games. So let the people know what we got going on here at Woodward Bets for the college football bowl season coming up here. I believe it starts on Friday.
It does. And we're going to have to see. I know all the powers to be behind the scenes over there, Chris, have been really busy with this stuff at studio. So It's all been sent over to the powers over there. We're just waiting for it to get posted up there on the website. Once it gets posted up on the website, it'll be live for everybody. But it was a breakdown of all the games against the spread. I think there was like 40-some bowl games, and I couldn't believe how many bowl games there were. As you're actually counting them up. It's kind of crazy. But hopefully that'll get posted up there today. Once it gets up there, we'll see how many people we get in, and then we'll be able to give out a prize list. But yeah, we're going to shoot that out, so look forward to that. We'll tweet it all out once it gets up there. But we're just waiting for it to drop on the site, and then we should be good to go.
Just wanted to light a little fire under them boys. I know they're busy there, so we'll have more information on that. We'll get that thing rolling.
We're just beating them today. We're beating them today.
Well, we're feeling the snub from the poster not being in the fantasy football league. I mean, there it is. Maybe we'll have Spencer mock. There we are, a little Rudolph action. So once the unknown reindeer, but soon enough leading the sleigh, like you said, Scott. So. Let's talk some NFL here. We'll talk some injuries. We'll look at some waivers, see what you guys think. A big week for a lot of teams, and before we get into it, guys, thoughts on real quick on the teams that are eliminated. Should they be allowed to participate in the waiver wire? I know this is a hot button topic, and a lot of people ask, how does this work? And I think it boils down to if they're still in contention for something, if you have a consolation bracket. I know there's leagues that utilize, if you're not in the playoffs, those teams are all playing for a top draft pick. I've seen those leagues. There's still prizes. So to me, the easy answer is as long as they're still playing for something outside of pride. I mean, of course, we always have that mixed in as well. Still have some matchups with your buddy, Beastie, a league like you're in, that we're all in. We're playing with your friends. Sometimes, the pride is worth more than the money or anything else. But quick thoughts on this, you guys. If teams are eliminated, what do you think? As far as a waiver wire goes. So it's an interesting topic. Beastie, we'll start with you.
I think it's all, if it's within the rules, then we run it, right? We play, the three of us here, we're huge into DFS and sports betting. DFS alone carries so much strategic thinking, and I'm going to go left and you're going to go right and zigging and zagging. And in seasonal formats, it's the same thing. There's games within the game, and playing the waiver wire and not spending your fab or spending your fab is all, woven into the structure of your league. So if I'm out of playoff contention, and if I have fab left, why am I not adding guys? Who's to say a guy that I add off waivers, like a running back, let's say Duke Johnson or something silly, or Rashad Penny, who's to say they don't go on and they get a spot next season? So you're always playing for next season in a dynasty league. In a redraft league, it might be a little bit of a jerk move, but hey, it's well within the rules. I'm playing and using strategy and fab just as you are. So just because I'm not in the playoff race or the playoff hunt doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to use my fab money. It's all in the fabric of fantasy football. Strategy will always win out.
Yeah, it's gamesmanship. And some people, it's a jerk move. Like, well, then you should have made better pickups if you're counting on this week. I like it. I'm with you. If I still have fab left, I'm in the league, I'm still allowed to make moves. And whether it's to try to throw somebody off, something like that, I know a lot of people want to play by the rigid rules and do things the right way. And I'm with you. I think if you're still in the league, you have some fab left, you want to add a guy, especially leagues that allow keepers, things like that. I mean, there's a lot of different wrinkles to this, so it's hard to fit it into one box with so many different leagues and league types. But Scott, your thoughts on this? Again, I know it's a pretty heated debate out there, but I'm with Beastie. I think if it's you still have fab, you're in the league, I don't see any reason why you're still not involved in the pickups weekly.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a, I mean, I get it. It is a jerk move to do that, to get involved. And when you're not, have anything to play for, maybe you're trying to just block somebody that you got a rivalry from. Maybe you got that one buddy who you don't want to see win. We all got that guy. Maybe you're just trying to do something to block him from winning, maybe picking up a penny or somebody like that when he needs a guy. But you know what, for me, I think more of the bitch is the guys who don't participate in the waiver wire throughout the whole year. And then you get the guys, that don't participate, then complaining about the guys who are participating at the end. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I'd rather have the league that participates. Everybody is in the league paying attention, because, I mean, when you got a couple guys in the league that don't pick anybody up, that don't really maneuver their roster, play their best players, and leaving guys in maybe on a bye, it just screws up the balance of the league. It messes it up for the guys who are really trying. So I think that's more of a bitch, and I don't have a complaint at the end if a guy is going to pick up somebody. I mean, you're well within your right. And for me, as I've said all year round, be involved, get in your waiver wire, do what you got to do. Because, again, to me, the worst players in the fantasy leagues are the guys who don't pay attention, come to the draft, to tell everybody how great their team is after they draft. And I'm rolling my eyes and thinking to myself, yeah, but dude, week 3, you're not even going to pay attention. You're not going to pick anybody up. You can literally draft the best team. You're still going to suck because you don't pay attention. So those are the guys I have to bitch with.
Sound like a little mini KMA here on a Tuesday, Scott, calling you guys out for not paying attention, and I'm with them. I mean, if you're going to be in a league, be in the league, and we're all competitors. So I want to compete, whether I made the playoffs or not. I still want to compete tooth and nail, and if that means adding Rashad Penny to beat Scott this week, even if I'm not in the playoffs, guess what? I'm going to add him. I'm not worried about what anyone else is doing. You want him? Bid more than I'm going to bid. As simple as that. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that as well. But let's get into some injuries, guys. Then we'll look at some pickups for this week. So we'll start at the tight end position. Logan Thomas. It sounds like he's done for the year. Torn ACL. I know he's been on and off the injury report all season long. So kind of a wasted year for Logan Thomas. But he is indeed done for the year. Darren Waller back working out. We're in the pool, running the treadmill. We'll see. They sounded optimistic last week. We did not see him return against the Chiefs. We'll see if he's back this week. TJ Hawkinson, hopeful to play this week. Another tight end we'll be keeping an eye on. DeAndre Swift, also in that same boat. Dan Campbell, optimistic on both of those guys. Tony Pollard, still dealing with that foot injury. Sounds like he's improving. So Mike McCarthy, optimistic he can return to the lineup. Elijah Moore, we know he's going to be out a couple weeks, but they think he could be back for week 17 and 18. So something to keep in mind. If you have a week 17 championship, maybe you can store some Elijah Moore, stash him on your bench. Michael Carter, expected to be activated this week. So we saw some flashes from Carter. We'll see if we were able to get him back this week. And Emmanuel Sanders, Buffalo, dealing with a knee injury, likely not available here this week, according to Sean McDermott. So Scott, we'll stay with you. Anything shocking there? A couple Lions on that list. I know Pollard, a name that's intriguing right now with the way he's playing. Darren Waller, probably a name a lot of people are counting on to get him back in that lineup. So anything surprising, anything we're missing from this list here? A little shorter list than normal, but some big impactful names on this list this week.
Yeah, definitely shorter than normal, but for me, that Lion running back situation is interesting. If Swift isn't able to go, what we end up seeing that, Jefferson ended up getting a few carries out of the middle of nowhere. Like, I did not expect to see him getting those carries, but, really for me, like I said, I think the Lions are in a spot here. If I was them, I would rest as many of these guys, Hawkinson, Swift. They just got to keep on losing so they can get that number 1 draft pick. But, yeah, really not too many, huge names on this one here. But, yeah, some of the pickups this week here, this is probably one of the weaker weeks we've actually seen as far as the waiver wire.
I'm guessing you're talking Craig Reynolds. I mean, that was a guy that came out of left field and looked pretty good there for Reynolds, the Lions. So it's like, who the hell is this guy? So, Beastie, any quick thoughts on this injury list here?
Yeah, one thing I haven't heard anybody talk about, granted it's only Tuesday, but what's going on in Miami? Every running back they have on their roster is now on the COVID IR. You're looking at Myles Gaskin, Selvin Ahmed, Philip Lindsay was now added. So who's to say Duke Johnson doesn't see RB1 kind of work on Sunday, just a process of elimination? That's the only guy they have healthy to carry the ball here. Granted, it would be a heavy Tua and Waddle week here, but in Miami, they're out of running backs. They're all on the COVID IR. And one more guy I want to mention, and that's in New York. With Elijah Moore being out or inactive again, you look at a kid like Braxton Berrios. He had 10 targets last week, and I'm almost certain both Duke Johnson and Braxton Berrios will be on your waiver wire, even though it's this late in the season, even though there's been a ton of injuries here. But Braxton Berrios and the Giants head to Miami, so same game. Who's to say we can't get a little Berrios and Duke Johnson action in our DFS formats on Sunday?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, we tried to figure out who the Jets were going to go to in that game. No Corey Davis, no Elijah Moore. I know Jamison Crowder was a very popular play in DFS this week. I thought it may be Keelan Cole, but we've seen this from Berrios before, so not a surprise. And If you played him at minimum price, you probably did all right at that spot. So another team dealing with some COVID is the Cleveland Browns, and they have a game coming up on Saturday. I mentioned we have a couple Saturday games here, but no Anthony Schwartz, Kareem Hunt. I know he's dealing with an ankle injury as well. Austin Hooper was placed on the COVID list. Some linemen were placed on the COVID list as well, along with the big name here, Jarvis Landry. So that's all of their tight ends, both starting tackles, both starting guards, a couple wide receivers. So Cleveland may be bare bones this week in this game coming up. So it's another team that we'll have to keep an eye on here as we get closer to Saturday. I always love when they add these Saturday games, guys. It's always it's another day. Football, you get those 2-game slates. You got the 1-game slates if you want to go that route, but fun to have Saturday football back with college football on a little bit of a hiatus. So let's talk waivers here. You guys have mentioned some of these names. Rashad Penny, obviously highlighting this list here, still available in over 80% of leagues. And Pete Carroll came out and said this guy should have every chance to be our lead back. And I don't know how he wouldn't say that. I mean, we know Chris Carson's out. Some of the other guys they've rolled out there, Alex Collins has been a disaster. They signed Adrian Peterson. We really haven't had a chance to see much of him. Travis Homer's more of a satellite pass catching back. So Penny could be a guy that lead teams to fantasy football championships. We see this every single year. These guys late in the season that break out. We know he's a former first-round pick. So the pedigree is there. The talent is there. It's a team we know loves to run the football. So he is clear and far away the number one pickup this week. But some other names, we got KJ Osborne stepping in for Adam Thielen. They're not sure he's going to be able to return, so maybe another week of Osborne. Beastie brought up Braxton Berrios, still available in pretty much every league out there. The Chargers, Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly, both available as options. Austin Eckler, perennially dealing with injuries. Laquan Treadwell has been kind of a big story there. It's a bad team, but he's been leading that receiver core down in Jacksonville. Duke Johnson, another name you guys brought up, could be in line for a ton of work here. Gabriel Davis playing well for Buffalo. You know, kind of the wide receiver 3-4 there, but no Sanders, so it bumps him up the tree. The Miami defense, if you're looking for a streamer, and of course the aforementioned Craig Reynolds out of left field here for the Lions, getting a ton of work. So Scott, we'll go to you here first. Obviously Penny highlighting that list, but some pretty big names, some guys that can certainly help you this week on the waiver wire.
Yeah, caught me napping over here. I was getting ready to fall asleep over there.
Tell me I'm putting you to sleep with all these names.
No, you're not. I was getting ready. I mean, I was sitting there daydreaming over there. You guys caught me in the middle of a yawn. But either way, yeah, I do like Rashad Penny. I think that is a great call. He's a guy that I'm locking in a couple of mine that I'm still fighting for contention over here. But Penny was great. I mean, every time I saw him, he was busting through some holes. It looked like he realizes, like, hey, he's not going to get too many more opportunities. He's had a few times to shine here in his career and hasn't really done so. But with that backfield mess that they got going on in Seattle, I think, you know, he gets hot. He's going to be a guy that they're going to continue to go to. So I think he's the guy that stands out the most here on this list for me. Duke Johnson's interesting, as Beastie mentioned. If there are all those COVID issues, I don't know, you know, vaccine status and all that. I think if they're vaccinated, they just got to have 2 days of negative tests in a row, so they play. If not, they got to sit out 10 days. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but yeah, I mean, damn, we've seen these running backs just run all over the Jets and some of these bad teams like the Lions and so forth. So definitely have some interest in Duke Johnson, but I think that may only be obviously a 1 week thing. But hey, if you can get points for 1 week from a starting running back on the waiver wire at this time of the year, I mean, that's a guy you definitely got to go after.
Yeah, especially the way these injuries have been trending. We're losing all of our big name running backs. So Beastie, thoughts on this list? I think it's clear to say Penny's the lead back. I love the Duke Johnson call. Berrios you brought up. So thoughts on this list here for people scrambling in their waivers this week?
In today's day and age, I don't know about you, but a tight end premium league that's started to pick up some steam. It was Superflex, PPR, and now a lot of folks are playing in a tight end premium league. And when you look at the tight ends on the main slate for DFS or just seasonal in general, it gets grim pretty quick. It's like George Kittle, Mark Andrews, and that's about it. So briefly, if anybody wants to write this down, I'd be honored. Durham Smythe, just double check the New York Jets tight end here. He could be on waivers. I know he was drafted but dropped, and so just double check. Durham Smythe, as I said, they host the Jets, who are 26th overall against opposing tight ends, or John Bates. He was a nice little addition when Ricky Seals-Jones was out. And now, again, as you mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast, Beer, Logan Thomas has tore his ACL. So John Bates going to get some big time action again in Philadelphia, who are, by the way, dead last, 32nd against opposing tight ends. So to me, I would make Durham Smythe and or John Bates a priority on my waiver wire this week.
Love it. I play in a ton of tight end premium leagues over on FFPC, a fun format for sure. So if you're not sure what we're talking about, there's different ways to do it, but mostly over there, it's tight ends get 1.5 points per reception. So just gives them that little added extra where you can take shots on guys like that. So glad you brought those guys to light. All right, let's take a look at the early lines here for week 15, as we always do on Tuesday. See if there's anything here that stands out. So they're right there on the screen, guys. You can pick any game you want. Some highlighted games here, some big ones here. New England heading to Indianapolis, obviously a big game. We got the Cardinals looking to bounce back after their loss, coming to Detroit. Green Bay and Baltimore should be a ton of fun. Cincinnati and Denver, an interesting game. There's also some potential blowouts here. So, Scott, we'll go to you here. Anything standing out early in the week? We got a lot of games. There's no lines. Dealing with this COVID stuff, we're not going to have any early lines to take advantage of. But anything look off here? Anything you want to place an early wager on here on a Tuesday night in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking here as you guys were talking and trying to see who, what we think of the Browns here. We know, as we talked, how much troubles they have over there with COVID. They're giving 5.5 to the Raiders at this point here, which I think may be a little bit too much. I know the Raiders have been struggling, but after that tough matchup last week with the Chiefs, I don't know if the Browns are going to be ready for that. I mean, we saw how much the Lions struggled having such a short roster. And, man, if all them offensive linemen and Hunt's going to be out for Cleveland, we've seen Baker struggling, Landry's going to be out, the tight ends are out. I think that is a recipe that could just spell trouble for the Browns. So I think that is one I'm going to keep my eye on. And, Chris, I don't know about you guys here, but I'm all over the Patriots lately. I know they're facing the Colts, who have been a pretty decent team here recently, but I just think the Colts here are not going to have enough to beat these Patriots. So I think for them right now, them getting points, I think the Patriots are interesting as well.
Yeah, that game should be a lot of fun. Indianapolis should be fresh. The Patriots have been impressive. I mean, the Colts playing well. I mean, this is going to be a team that loves to run the ball against a team that plays pretty stifling defense. So that one should be fun. Beastie, anything here standing out to you early in the week on some of these lines or totals?
Yeah, and I think they're good. It's like entertainment value here. You look at Houston at Jacksonville, over-unders at about 41. I'm taking the under. I would literally feel comfortable taking an under of 20 total points. Houston, they were shut out last week, and then the week before that, in week 13, I believe, Houston was shut out. So back-to-back weeks, these teams have been shut out, and you're going to say over-under of 41. So they get together in some sort of toilet bowl, and who's to say it doesn't finish in a 0-0 tie? Or like a 3-0 weird kind of tie here, just for fun. We can, speculate on that. And then also the Jets at Miami. Over-under sits at 43 total points here. When you look at it, Miami, everybody's getting on the COVID list for Miami. No healthy running backs. How are they going to move the ball? Everybody in the arena knows it's going to have to be Tua and Waddle. You shut that connection down, and Miami's just kind of chugging along the best that they can. And then the Jets, same thing. Elijah Moore's not healthy. Michael Carter might be back, but he's a rookie, fresh off, being out a couple games. So I could see all four teams just struggling to put up points. So I'm going to move all my chips. I'm going to split all my chips between under in Houston, Jacksonville, and under New York Jets and Miami.
Yeah, that might be the worst game ever seen in the NFL.
Right.
Houston and Jacksonville. I mean, it don't get much worse than that. So you got to be a diehard to watch that game. I'm gonna tell you that. And even if you are a fantasy football player betting on that game, you still got to be a diehard, or maybe there's something wrong with you watching them two teams. But certainly an interesting game here. A couple of underdogs standing out to me. Atlanta catching 8 points in San Francisco. I know the Niners are on a roll, and we've kind of bashed Atlanta all season long, Scott, but they continue to be competitive here in games and hanging around this playoff race. So I think they can stay within the 8 points in that one. I also like Denver here at home. Cincinnati is kind of falling off a cliff a little bit, and we talk about how tough a place to play it is going to Denver here. So I think Cincinnati the better team, but the fact that they're traveling, Denver playing with a lot of confidence. We've seen the emergence of Javonte Williams. Melvin Gordon look great as well, so they can get that ground game going. I just think Denver being the underdog here, I want to grab that, probably more so on the money line. I think this one could end up closer to a pick 'em by the time we get to kickoff of that game. So Atlanta and Denver, that look like two that look off to me here early in the week. All right, guys, almost going on an hour here. We appreciate Beastie joining us to talk some hockey, but it's time for our best bet segment. We got to stay hot here, give the people some winners. We got to wake Scott up here. I think Scott needs a nap here on Tuesday night. So let's do it with some best bets. Beastie, let's start with you. Give the people some winners. Who are we betting on tonight?
Yeah, we're going to keep it with hockey. As I said, Ottawa Senators at Florida Panthers. I love over 6.5 goals here. And then Buffalo at Winnipeg Jets. I love taking Winnipeg minus 1.5 goals here. And then one more thing I do all the time. In hockey, you can bet the 60-minute final score. And I've had some success there, and the odds are unbelievable. So Florida Panthers, Florida will win 5-2, 60-minute score, plus 1,200. Then you parlay it with the Winnipeg Jets winning 5-2, 60-minute score, plus 1,200. Combined, you can get both of those games in a 2-leg parlay for plus 16,800. So $1 will award you $169. You want to put $10 on it, you're looking at thousands of dollars here.
I love it. Those are my kind of parlays right there. Parlays are fun as long as you do it, safely, carefully.
Within
don't
reason,
go nuts with it.
Don't bet money you can't lose.
Exactly. So add those two. That's got to be like a separate piece of your betting portfolio. But those are fun. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one. Scott, best bets Tuesday night, buddy. What do we got?
I got two in the NBA that I'm going to give out. So the first one, I'm going to go with the Toronto Raptors, getting the 5 at this point. They started out getting 8.5. I just think Brooklyn's been struggling at home here recently. They're let's see here, they are 0-5 in their last 5 games at home as a favorite. They're 0-5 in their last 5 home games actually. So I'm going to go with Toronto. They've been playing pretty well. And then the last one I got, I'm going to roll with the best team at this point in the NBA. I'm going to roll with Phoenix going into Portland tonight. They are giving them a 1.5 here. I just think Phoenix and Chris Paul will be a little bit too much for him, and it doesn't matter to me if Ayton gets in there or not. I still like Phoenix regardless, but I'll ride with the Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns.
All right, I'll keep the theme going here, too, for me as well. Both going to be in the NBA tonight. I know Steph Curry is the talk of the town here. Everybody's excited for him to break this record. The Knicks are going to be missing some guys. That being said, Golden State coming off a back-to-back here. I want the Knicks plus the 5 at home. I do think they can stay competitive, potentially win this game. Would not shock me to see the Knicks win. So I don't hate a money line play here as well. I know Golden State has been phenomenal. I know everybody out there loves to bet on Golden State and Steph Curry, but give me the Knicks plus the 5 here. And Scott, I'm going to go to that Phoenix-Portland game, a little different angle. I'm going to go the over 219 here. Two teams, even without CJ McCollum, two teams that can score. I know Chris Paul, still a pretty good defender, but he's not going to hold down Damian Lillard in this Portland offense. So I think this one has shootout potential back and forth. I like the over in the Phoenix-Portland game. So 6 best bets on the board here. Hockey, NBA. So best of luck with your bets tonight, guys. Final thoughts here for the people. Beastie, we'll start with you.
No, thanks for having me. I just want to say, anybody that's watching this, and to you, Beer, I wasn't late on purpose. Scott said we'll talk hockey at like 1:20, so I joined the broadcast right in the middle of things, and I don't want folks to think I'm some dummy slowpoke that comes into meetings and broadcasts late. Thanks for having me.
No, that was all right. We had a little trick for the people, a little magic. We told them we weren't talking hockey. We wanted you just to pop in, so that was by design, and we appreciate you dropping all the hockey knowledge on us along with some best bets and one hell of a parlay. So we'll be tracking that one. Scott, final thoughts Tuesday night. What do you got, buddy?
I mean, it's always fun to get on here with you two boys and talk sports here for all the people. But, Yeah, I'll be looking forward. I'm kind of bummed the Piston game isn't going on tonight, to be truthful. I was kind of looking forward to that Piston and Bulls little rivalry. I've been watching my boy Cade. I got that Rookie of the Year bet, as we talked about, but I'll get to see my other rookie that I'm rooting for with Lucas Raymond over there with the Red Wings. So I always enjoy watching my two young stars here who I got my parlay money on, and we'll see what happens. But hopefully we stay hot with our best bets. You guys have been killing it recently here. I know last Thursday in my absence, you guys went 5-1, so you guys are going to have to do that again this Thursday, as I'll be traveling down there to the beach, so you two can keep it hot there. But let's get that lunch money rolling. So, or that toys for that stuff, the studio money that we need for those kids over there. So get a win, get over there to Myers or wherever else and buy yourself a toy, and that's it there. And we're gonna dance our way into the promised lands.
If only you had moves like that. Now, we had earlier in the show you talking about the thought of you being in a dress serving beer is a little concerning to me, but there he is. That's more Scott's dance moves right there. So hopefully we get some footage from Miami. I know you've been talking about potentially some drunk Stewie making a return to the show. I know he's probably our biggest hit segment we've had on this show. So excited for that. Spencer, can you throw up one more time the stuff of studio? So important that we get involved with this. If you want to drop off a toy, head to the studio. You can do it right there. If some of the guys are there, we're talking Braylon Edwards, Darren McCarty, Ryan Armani, Joik Bell, amongst many others. I get a chance to meet them, shake their hand, say hello. Please get involved with this. If not, you can head over to woodwardsports.com and get involved there as well. So this will go on for the entirety of this week. The toys are starting to pile up in the studio, so I'm challenging each and every one of you to get involved with this campaign for such a great cause. And we're, of course, excited to be on board here at Woodward Bets. So tomorrow on the show, we have our KMA and, of course, our initial breakdown of the NFL slate. We'll go in depth on each and every game, take a look at what happened in the waiver wires, update that along with the NFL injury report, give you some NBA thoughts as well. So a packed show on Wednesday. So make sure you guys are joining us for that. So that will do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. For Scott, for Beastie, for our boy Spencer behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Best of luck in all of your contests and your bets tonight, and we'll catch you tomorrow.